俺の財宝か？欲しけりゃくれてやる。探せ！この世のすべてをそこに置いてきた。
Yo guys, and welcome to this new video. So this time we had a classic transitional chapter that is meant to be a setup for the next phase of the Wano arc, and as such it includes many interesting hints about the major aspects of the plot. But before seeing all of them in detail, I publish new videos every week, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to always know when I upload something new. Alright, with that said, let's jump straight into it. So first of all, Badge's cover series is taking a very surprising and interesting direction. Indeed, the last time we saw Lola, it was in occasion of the cover series illustrating the reaction of people all over the world to the return of the Mugiwaras, and she was in Water 7. Now that was about 6-7 weeks before the current events, so she could be in a very different location now. However, since she came from the new world, it's very likely she is still in the paradise half of the Grand Line. But this means probably a major part of Badge's journey in this cover series will take place on the waves facing the other side of the Red Line. And so, if Oda plans to connect this adventure to the main plot, just like it did with the previous cover series, what we will see from now on the front pages could even be a way to begin setting up the One Piece world to prepare it for the global scaled events we should expect after the end of Wano. At the same time, this direction the cover series is taking apparently won't involve the other major character who escaped the Volcanic Island situation and who, despite his necessary presence in the Wano arc, is still missing in the land of samurai, Jinbe. But on the other hand, it's possible the Supernova's path will cross instead that of Nekomamushi, who is the other character the plot can't go on without. And talking about the plot, the same unpredictability Oda is treating Badge with in the cover series seems to be also the principal characteristic of the supernova currently situated in Wano. Indeed, now it is practically impossible to predict how Kid will act from this point on, especially considering that the comrades he wants to free apparently were not imprisoned in Udon, and my idea is that they are connected to the reason why Killer decided to become an assassin working for Orochi, suggesting the man called Captain could actually postpone for a while his revenge against Kaido to direct his attention towards the Orochi's side of the country. A development that could explain why his dialogue with Luffy gave the impression he was leaving the Yonko for Mugiwara to beat. By the way, the fact in this occasion he didn't try to kill Luffy, even if he definitely had the opportunity, in my opinion is a proof that for how ruthless he can be, he still has his principles, and maybe in this case even a bit of gratitude towards the man that allowed him and his partner to escape. Definitely much more predictable, and indeed I did predict it in one of the previous reviews, is instead the kinda simple but very significant role Momonosuke had to conclude the rebellion in Udon. Indeed, even if the way Luffy healed the prisoners' spirits gave them the resolution to die fighting Kaido and Orochi, those who stole and destroyed the country, killing the man apparently respected by every single person in Wano, Kozuki Oden, seeing that the Kozuki clan, which probably because of the way Oden himself lived, for them represents the strength and well-being of the country and of the people who make the country, is still alive, gave them the perspective of a future which doesn't allow them to lose. And for how strong an opponent with nothing to lose can seem, an even more dangerous enemy is who pursues an ideal, making victory the only possible option at any cost. And talking about Oden, it's interesting to see how Oda continues teasing the flashback without showing it, which together with the way everyone talks about him in Wano is contributing a lot in creating the atmosphere of greatness surrounding this character even before actually showing us why he was such an incredible person. And about that, I think a very relevant part would be played by who this flashback will come from. One of the possibilities is Hiyori, who, considered her past, is also probably the reason why Kawamatsu is separating from the rest of the Udon group. Indeed, he will now most likely search for Oden's daughter, starting from where he left her. And this situation could finally give us some definitive answers about Kyoshiro's identity and true loyalty. But for now, the princess remains with Zoro, who in this chapter definitely killed all of my expectations about Orochi's ninjas and more in general about the strength of the entire side of the arc belonging to the Shogun. Indeed, the fact Zorojuro only needed 2 swords to defeat at least a major part of that group apparently made by Orochi's strongest subordinates evidently makes them much weaker than the samurai we saw on the Kozuki side of the country. And this gap seems to be not only in terms of sheer strength, but also of attitude, as we see in the brief but very intense flashback by Ashura Douji, which gives a very impactful meaning to the word Sanachi previously introduced by Momonosuke, while at the same time showing how the Kozuki rebellion also carries the weight of the 20 years Wano was forced to wait, made by the lives of those who didn't have the opportunity to wait that long. And I think the way Oda treated this aspect, without spending too much space, but still transmitting clearly and strongly the way those samurai decided to live from the very beginning to the very end, represented by the word Sanachi, is something difficult to find expressed in the same way somewhere else. By the way, the fact Momo learned this word from Zoro could be a confirmation of the Mugiwara swordsman's connection to Wano, and could bring up again the concept treated in Ashura's flashback when this connection will be finally explained. But the flashback also reveals a very interesting detail about the story itself. Indeed, the way Ashura Douji, Kinemon and Inuarashi talk about the 20 years gap suggests it was Oden himself who decided Momonosuke needed to be sent that far ahead. And since he was one of the few who reached the Raftel with Roger and so discovered the history of the Void Century and all the secrets of the world, considering the voice of all things possessed by Roger and Luffy and thus probably related to Joy Boy's heir seems to be associated, for what we saw in Fishman Island and Zou, to both Poseidon's and Momonosuke's abilities to command respectively the Sea Kings and Zunisha, and considering considering also how all these abilities apparently continuously reborn through centuries in a very specific way, the only possible explanation for Oden's choice is that, knowing somehow his son could not only hear Zunisha, but differently from him also order it, the daimyo of Kuri wanted his son to be alive in a specific moment of history when, differently from what happened to Roger, all these abilities existed together. But if this is true, it can be considered a confirmation in Wano we will have major revelations about the Void Century. Now, the only thing left to discuss about is Low's situation, and it's interesting to see how in the end all three members of what we can call the Worst Generation trio we saw in Sabaudi were captured here in Wano. But in this specific case, the Surgeon of Death doesn't seem worried about his situation. And I think this confidence could be related to Drake's weird behavior. Indeed, considering Low's plan to defeat the Flamingo and consequently Kaido had already begun before he met Luffy in Punk Hazard, and remembering in Shabundi it looked like he and Drake knew each other, Red Flag joining Kaido's army could have been something the two of them had already planned in advance to bring down the Yonko, which could also explain why Drake seemed to be so interested in the news about the Flamingo's defeat. In any case, what's sure is that if in Bakura town he could escape even if he was shot with a Siston nail, the fact he didn't this time and instead got himself caught was probably his own choice, and it will be very interesting to see where this will bring him. But until we wait to see that happening, that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching, don't forget to leave a like and make sure to watch also these other videos made by this channel. See you next time. Jane.